This is the story of a murderer. His name, I'm sure he doesn't think of himself as a murderer, but he is. He's just a common murderer. Leo Frederick Burt. His preferred weapon of choice was bomb. In 1970, Burt took part in the Sterling Hall bombing at the University of Wisconsin-Madison campus. He wanted to protest the war in Vietnam. So did a lot of us, but me and hundreds of thousands of others. In fact, overwhelmingly most people, we went down to our local post office or federal building and held protest. Logical way to do things. We were vocal. You should be a vocal citizen if your government's doing something that's basically stupid. I've since changed my mind. I understand now why we needed to fight in Vietnam. But anyway, this clown, Bert, he wanted to stop the violence in Vietnam by using a bomb to protest the war. Think about that. His bombing killed a physics researcher, Robert Fastnet. Fastnet was the father of three very young children under five. It injured several others. It caused 2.1 million in damage. 2.1 million in damage in 1970. It's a lot more than it sounds like. Bear in mind, if you've ever been on a college campus, you know these places are buzzing all the time. There's thousands of kids on these campuses. They're up at all hours of the day and night running around. He could have killed some students in this act of idiocy. I think it just didn't occur to him. Or, you know what? He just didn't care, really. So it was Burt who introduced his fellow murderers, David Fine, Carl Armstrong, and Armstrong's brother Dwight, together. And they then formed this anti war cell called the New Year's Gang. There were a lot of these gangs. I know most of you are much too young to remember, but there were a lot of these gangs. Uh, they were taking the gang name from the Chinese radicals of the 30s, the so and so gang, and politically radical gangs, not criminal. And so they decided they'd emulate the communist Chinese of all people. The gang set about their plans of destruction by dropping, listen to this, mayonnaise jars filled with explosives out of a plane onto a munitions site. That would have been mass murder, but it failed because A, it's a stupid idea, and it, it doesn't work. Explosives don't work quite that way. Anyway, that attempt failed, so they focused in on the Army Mathematics Research Center on the upper floor of Sterling Hall at the UW campus. The group assembled a stolen Ford Ecoline van. There were a lot of them around those days. And they packed it with 2,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate and fuel oil. One of the killers, this punk Fine, phoned the police and he warned them that there was an attack impending. This is what the conversation is. It's recorded. Okay, pigs, now listen and listen good. There's a bomb in the Army Math Research Center at the university, set to go off in 5 minutes. Clear the building. Get everyone out. Warn the hospital. This is no bull, man. The officer who took the call, Madison Police Department Sergeant Robert Burticott, took exactly 1 minute and 15 seconds to place a call to the University Department of Protection and Security. 1 minute and 15 seconds was too late. The bomb went off in the van. The van was parked alongside the Sterling Hall. It went off at 4:30 in the morning, causing an explosion big enough to hollow out the bottom of the building. There's a photo here of the building. It's a big building. Burt, who was then 22 years old, he justified his actions by claiming to have become radicalized after being beaten by a policeman while covering a protest against the Kent State shootings. Kent State was where the National Guard, fired on anti-war protesters. After the anti-war protesters scared them, you'd have to. It's not as simple a situation as, well, these guardsmen showed up and started shooting. It's not like that at all. The kids who were protesting were the same age as the guardsmen with the guns. And, it's an unfortunate and terrible event that happened. But still, it doesn't justify this guy. I got beat up, so I'm going to go blow up a building on a campus and kill somebody. It just doesn't. So rather than face the music for this horrific crime, Burt, he did what cowards do. He fled. He disappeared into the underground and eventually went to Canada. The underground, that's another term you'd have to explain. It was pretty big, the political underground in the 1970s. There were places that hid out young men who were going to be drafted and that sort of thing. So The other guys, in 1972, Carl Armstrong was arrested in Toronto. Fine was picked up in California in 1976. Arms, Dwight Armstrong was captured in Toronto in 1977. Remarkably, Dwight Armstrong and Fine served under 3 years for the murder. Carl Armstrong served only 7 years of a 23-year sentence. So a total of less than 13 years for the murder of this promising young father of three. It's not right. The purpose of prison is to reform. We should do that to set a person on a straight and narrow path. But it is also to punish. That's fair. It's not unreasonable. Carl Armstrong now operates, I can't believe this, a healthy juice stand near the site of where the building he destroyed once stood. My father had an expression, the balls of an alley cat. Fine moved to Portland, of course, where else would someone like him go? And works as a paralegal. He tried to get his legal license. He had gone to law school. And the Supreme Court of the state, I've forgotten what state it was where he was in, ruled against him. They said, you shouldn't have a law license. You have disregard for human life. No, we're not going to give you a legal license. Dwight Armstrong died of cancer in 2009. Even at that, he still outlived his murder victim by 29 years. The FBI tracked Burt down, but he managed to slip the trap. In 2010, near the 14th anniversary of the bombing, several tips on Burt's possible location included a Denver homeless shelter. Someone spotted him, they thought, in Lakewood, Washington. One tipster placed him as a waiter at a resort in Costa Rica. Others claimed they spotted him near St. Catharines in Ontario. Some who actually knew him said that he attended his father's funeral several years ago. The Justice Department is offering, I don't know if this still stands, a $150,000 reward for Burt, who stands 6 feet tall. He's probably armed, is what they think, and he is considered dangerous by the FBI. And basically, 1970, this is 2023, yeah, he got away with it.